From WDWNT, the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news, this is ParksCenter. Hello there, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of ParksCenter. My name's Ben, and joining me we have Allison.
Hello, everyone.
Jill.
Hello.
Rob.
What's up, guys?
And Pete.
SivaCon! Welcome to the show, baby. It's Wednesday night. Let's do this.
Yeah. All right, well, let's kick this off talking with a little bit of breaking news, actually. This story came out just before we went live on Wednesday night. Orange County in California has announced that they're going to be shutting down all indoor operations due to a spike in COVID-19 cases, which puts the certainty of downtown Disney opening on July 9th into uncertainty. So, meanwhile, Florida is still planning to open as scheduled. Although some cast members have started voicing displeasure with these working conditions, especially the cast working in live productions, because cast who interface with guests directly, like on the street, will be able to wear face masks and face protection. And in fact, cast members will be provided face shields if they're working in close proximity with guests. But a lot of the concern has been about with fellow cast members. The company is not going to be testing anybody when they arrive on property. They're not going to be doing anything special, or at least they haven't announced that they're going to be doing anything special to take care of those folks who work in live shows, working as actors. And obviously, those actors will not be wearing masks, or I guess maybe less obviously if you've seen the Bourne show over at Universal. So this seems really interesting to me, mainly because the unions are still kind of not on board with this opening plan. And if the unions don't get on board, they're going to have a really hard time getting things going. Do we think that something's going to get worked out? Do we think that it's going to fall through? Or do you think that things are just going to, work?
My prediction is it's not opening on July 11th, but I know I might be in the minority. It just seems like the cases have increased fivefold over the last 2 weeks, and they can do everything they can to mitigate risk, but you can't really mitigate risk when there's that much community spread in that area. So I think the unions here are going to win out, and the live performers are going to win out, and it's going to be delayed a little bit further. I think that Orange County in Florida, the Orlando area, and Osceola and whatever the counties, they all sort of intersect right by Disney, are going to end up having to roll back their opening.
So here's the thing about, we're running out of time for them to walk this back. You know, I'm not saying I disagree with your arguments, Allison, at all. It is the situation is getting more serious, but it's not just that Disney opens on July 11th. It's that cast member previews are starting on the 7th. AP previews are starting on the 9th. This is literally days away at this point. It's not even a full week anymore. So they're running out of time to walk this back. I also find this weird because at Universal, there are, and I think the issue here is that we're talking specifically about the equity union, which is for a relatively high caliber of performer. And those are the ones who are having the issue here. But the other thing I find interesting is, having spent time at Universal, there are absolutely live performers. I don't know if you're familiar, in Harry Potter, they have the Frog Choir, which is for live singers who come out and sing a cappella. And they came out and performed. Every single one of them was wearing a mask. They had meet and greet characters. You couldn't actually go up and meet and greet them. They were up on a stage and distanced. And those who, like Captain America, was wearing a covering over the bottom of his face. So Universal is making concessions, exceptions, whatever you want to call it. Universal is changing things in order to allow these live performances to continue. So I find it interesting, and I don't know if that's because these live performers at Universal are not members of Equity, or if they just have come to a different arrangement, although I would find that strange that Universal would be able to come to an arrangement with them that Disney would not be able to do. But it's definitely weird to me that that's a holdout. One of the things that I thought was strange was the article talked about the union was asking for testing of all guests, which I find like completely unrealistic. I don't even know how they would begin to manage that or enforce that in any way. And I don't even know if it would be legal for them to do that. So it's definitely a weird thing, but
I don't think we're running out of time though, because when this all started 3.5 months ago, the park shut down on 3 days notice. So I think if we have another record-setting weekend, that's still a week and a half, a week before or close to a week before cast member previews and a week before the opening is scheduled. So I don't think Disney's going to have a choice, but we'll see.
And we're going to get to a story later on in tonight's show where some decisions were rolled back very abruptly and pretty quickly after they had changed around. So we'll get to that second to last topic. Stay tuned for that. But for now, let's move on to the wonderful world of motion, where we've got all sorts of transportation starting to get underway at Walt Disney World. The monorail has started testing at this point. It's going to be partially resuming its service on July 11th. We've got some video of the ferry boats now testing and training ahead of the reopening there as well. And we've even got news that the Skyliner is going to be returning on July 15th. So that is all coming back. I'm a little surprised about the ferry boats, to be honest with you, because it seems like a people packer, and I don't know how they're going to be able to social distance that well. The Skyliner makes absolute sense, though, like we've said on this show multiple times before.
I find the monorail.
Do you think the ferry boats are more of a people packer than the monorail? So for the Skyliner, you can say how many in your party and just put that many people in a Skyliner and send them. Great. You can't just put like how many in your party for on a monorail car. And granted, like you can say sit on one end and the other end, but that takes a lot of planning. Monorails to me pack out. They are also super small, confined. They are repurposing that air. A ferry boat at least is open air. They're giant and they can have designated sections. We haven't been on them yet, but I'm sure there are designated sections. What?
We're getting buzzed.
Was I just on a ferry boat? No, but I'm sure there are going to be designated seating areas and standing areas that are 6 feet apart. And you're also open air. It's also shorter. I think the ferry boat is the more practical. If I am going to the Magic Kingdom from the TTC, which everyone out there watching knows I haven't done in years, but if I was going to do that, I would take a ferry boat over a monorail during COVID any single day of the friggin' week. It's open air, and they can space people out way more than they can on the monorail. And if they are going to space people out on the monorail, think about how long those lines are going to be. There's way more capacity on a ferry boat than a monorail if you're doing social distancing. That's my hot take. Good day.
Yeah,
I agree with. I just agree with everything Pete just said. That is all. I don't. The monorail is. Can you imagine the lines for the monorail? That's.
Well, you know what, though? I mean,
I'm
I think they have to have at least an alternate means of getting over there. So maybe there's a situation where they may say, next party you go monorail, next party you go ferry, but they have they can't put everybody in a monorail and the ferry. I agree with them that, I would rather take that where it's a little bit more open. So I think that even because you're not going to pack either one of them, you have to have as many modes of transportation getting over there as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think we're going to see a lot of, and even the buses, now that you have to only have 6 groups on a bus. So even if you take a bus from the TTC to the Magic Kingdom, there's only 6 groups allowed. Like, think about that in terms of how many groups are on your last bus from anywhere at Walt Disney World to A to B. probably 40 groups packed together, whether they're standing or sitting everywhere else. And you're down to 6 now with no standing, only 6 groups of 4, 5, or 6 or less on every bus. So your bus capacity is way down, your ferry capacity is way down, your monorail is way down, and you can walk the Contemporary to the Magic Kingdom if you wanted to, but now, even if they completed the new walkway from Grand Flow to Magic Kingdom, you can't. Will they let guests walk through the Grand Floridian with the NBA staying there? Because that's going to start with the NBA starting in 2 weeks. The NBA players are staying at the Grand Flow, and they are in full lockdown mode. They cannot be near the general public at all. And I don't know why they did that when Animal Kingdom Lodge was available, and it was much closer to ESPN World of Sports, and it was a better choice. And why are they at the Grand Flow when it's going to interrupt the monorail line? It's going to interrupt walking. It's
because
very
the NBA is paying them $1.5 million a day, and Disney needs every penny it can get right now.
And you think about if you're an NBA player, you're probably in your 20s, you're an athlete, and you are looking for a good time. You think you're into the Grand Floridian over the Animal Kingdom Lodge, which is 2 minutes from the ESPN Wide World of Sports. You wake up to giraffes every day. The rooms, in my opinion, are nicer. The Grand Flow is a beautiful hotel. I don't think that's the NBA demographic, and I'm just talking as pretending that I'm an NBA player, because that's how I think. And I would much rather stay at the Animal Kingdom Lodge than at the Grand Floridian. And maybe it's just me. But if I'm and I'm not even a young 20-something, but I pretend that I am. What are you doing? And why are you on the monorail line? Why are you interrupting walking from the Poly?
Okay.
You can walk from the Poly to the Grand. There's so much. Anyway,
this is just a PSA. Anyone who happens to take the monorail and they go past the Grand Floridian with the NBA players, please get some close-up photos. Just zoom in on your lens. I want to see NBA players in the splash pool with the Mad Hatter big hat, like tipping over. It would just like make all of quarantine for me.
No,
get those photos.
Neither of their family. So if you can take photos of them as the monorail's passing with the help me signs of get me out of here, I'm trying to lose the game anyway. That's
I'm a basketball player. Get me out of here.
The best was Major League Soccer doing Swan and Dolphin were a bunch of geniuses. Gran Destino was great. I don't want to get into the whole NBA thing. But anyway, the World of Motion, if that's our topic, the ferry boat is your best mode of transportation.
Yeah. Well, moving on to a topic where, honestly, I'm just going to hand the reins over to Jill for this. What happened?
So, Disney does not know how to do technology. I know this is a news flash for all of you. Disney does not know how to do technology. And it ruined my life yesterday morning. So as we reported, and as many of you probably have experienced, Disney said if you had a dining reservation that was canceled, and there were certain dates, whatever timeframes, you would have priority access to making new dining reservations. That is what Disney said publicly. And then, because I am a person who had a dining reservation canceled in the period in question, I received an email on Monday saying, you had a dining reservation canceled. You get priority access to dining reservations on June 30th. So I woke up at 6 a.m. yesterday morning and got in front of my computer and started clicking my refresh button to try to make dining reservations. And we all assumed that 7 a.m. was when they go live, because that is historically how it has been. At 7 a.m., dining reservations go live. It's how the 180 booking day window goes. It's when if you use a travel agent, that's when they start calling to get dining reservations for all their clients. So at 7 a.m., I start refreshing the page, and I also dial the number for Disney Dining. Like, I have the Disney Dining phone number, and I dial it. And then I just keep getting this message that says, sorry for the pause, P-A-W-S. Oh, so cute, with Lady and the Tramp, telling me only people who have had a reservation canceled get to make reservations right now, and you're not one of them. And I'm like, but I have an email telling me that I'm one of them. but that didn't seem to matter. Meanwhile, so from like 7 to 8 o'clock, I keep refreshing the page, getting nowhere, getting this exact same message over and over. Meanwhile, I'm on hold. I have the hold message playing on my phone with Disney Dining. No one's picking up for a full hour. No one's picking up, even though I literally called at like 7 o'clock and 12 seconds when they open. No one can pick up the phone in an hour. And meanwhile, people who I know didn't get the email to make early dining reservations are able to make early dining reservations. So I have to go at 8 o'clock because I have a work meeting. So I get on the work meeting and I hang up the phone. At 9 o'clock, when my work meeting is done, I try again. I still can't make dining reservations. By now, like everyone and their sister has made dining reservations. I try to call back the Disney Dining number. They literally cut off the phone queue. They said, we are not taking any more calls because our queue is too full at 9 a.m.
Jeez.
I was not able to make
Disney.
a dining reservation until noon. When Disney had promised me I would get early access to dining reservations.
6 hours after you woke up.
6 hours after I woke up. That is how Disney artfully executed giving people priority access to dining reservations yesterday morning. Great job, Disney. Thank you.
Wow.
That's all. Yeah, that's... I'm sorry. I feel like... Aw, at least I get something out of it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. I also want to give a shout out to Kevin on the WDWNT staff who made a dining reservation for me that I really wanted, and he's my hero. So thank you all.
Whew. That was great. Let's have that same story again, but this time replace every instance of the word dining with annual pass holder.
This is what a gem this system was.
Pete, you want to go on about this one?
No, here's the deal: is that I feel whenever someone says that doesn't work for this company, why do you work for WWNT? I just like to say days like that day is that thank God for WWNT who helped me out and let me know that I could go and register, because pass holder emails did not go out until it was sold out for the 2 days. That is insane. So all those out there who are like, oh, you big jerks at WWNT, I oughta. Remember when we published an article saying go sign up because you can, and you got in? Because if you waited for your email like a good old Disney-loving fan, you would have never gotten in. And that's all I have to say is it's a real shame, because I am a lover of all things Disney. I love Walt Disney World. Josh Tomorrow doesn't know it, but he's probably my best man. I mean, I love all things Walt Disney World. But man, Jill nailed it. When it comes to technology, they are the worst. We love the park. It's so funny because we love the parks. We love everything that's old school. Don't touch anything that's old or, a relic. But God forbid they do anything with technology. They just drop the ball. I feel so bad for anyone who didn't get in. I got an AP reservation. I'm very grateful for that. But I feel so bad for all those who just did the right thing and waited for an email because you didn't get one. And that's not fair. And it breaks my heart for those who follow the rules and those who waited for that email and that don't follow WDWNT. So I'm so sorry to all of you.
For a record, this article that we put up that we then updated to say as of noon it had reached capacity and closed. We published that article at 11:06 that day, so that was only an hour window if you read our site, which is also ridiculously quick.
Yeah, even that's
which is why it's
just
key to set up push
we're not picking favorites.
notifications.
11:06 is also when I found out as a staff member of WDWNT. So it's not like we pick favorites like, hey, everyone here who works here, go do it. We posted for everyone. Thank God we know about it. Like, it's not fair that these things happen. And I mean, my father always said it. I would always complain to my dad growing up, like, how come this or how come that? And he would always just look at me. My father grew up in an orphanage, served in Vietnam, lived in the woods on his own. And my father would always look at me whenever I was like, well, how come this isn't fair? And he goes, Peter, life is not fair. And I was like, well, that's a terrible answer, but hi-ho life. And now I've learned with the Walt Disney World system, he was dead on since the time I was 6 years old. It is just not fair. It is not fair at all. I wish it was. I wish Disney had a better system. But yeah, this is unfortunate. And like I said, I got in and I feel guilty. Why should I feel guilty as a pass holder that I got in? Because I don't know why I feel guilty. I want everyone there with me. I don't think it's fair that I got in. But again, a credit to our site, and I'll leave it at that.
I definitely want to speak briefly to that feeling of like guilty for getting into a pass holder event, because I've done that I think twice now, where I've been down on a trip with my family and I got into one of either the VI pass holder, there we go, events, or something like that. And they will only let the pass holder in. They will not let you bring a guest unless that guest is also a pass holder. And that is absolutely terrible to do when, like, I'm going down with my mom and my little sister, and I got to see Toy Story Land before it opened, and I got to just tell them, hey, it's neat, but, like, you can't see it. That's terrible. I can't... I know that opening that system up to more people will make passes go faster and will not solve any problem. But while we're on the topic, that's just a soapbox I want to get on for a sec.
Listen, and I said this on I think last week's show, is that anything with a capacity, we know Disney's going to drop. Look at Run Disney events. Like, you can say you're in the queue, and like anything with a capacity with a sign up right away, it's a sugar show. That's all I can say.
I have two words. Well, maybe it's one word. Shop Disney. That is.
Also a complete train wreck, and I, for the record, have never shopped Disney.
Can I tell you I broke Shop Disney? I started everything that was sold out. I started putting everything that was sold out like on my wish list, and now my wish list is broken because when I go there, I get Ralph every time. So apparently, I've somehow broken it. So anything I had to my wish list, go there. It's all gone anyway. But if you're looking for the Country Bears, they're back. The Wishables are there.
Jeez. Well, speaking of things coming back and then I guess disappearing, as we alluded to earlier in the show, Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar reopened on June 25th, and then on June 26th was closed.
What a run.
Because there was a statewide ban on-premises alcohol consumption, and anywhere that got over 50% of their revenue from alcohol sales had to just close entirely. So... poor Jock Lindsay's. I'm so sorry.
Literally, I live here. I go to Disney's. I've been helping out with WWNT reporting for the last few days because reporters have been few and far between. But I mean, like, Jock Lindsay's, I feel like is the only place that was affected by this in the entire Orlando area. I have been out driving around. I have been at Disney Springs. I have been everywhere. The outside bars at Disney Springs are still open. You can go and have a drink. A Tito's, a beer, a wine, a White Claw outside at the bars at Disney, but you cannot even go into Jock Lindsay's and have a drink. Poor Jock Lindsay's, the only bar affected by this rule. It's on them and Senor Frogs. I feel like are the only two places in all of Orlando that I found out were affected by this crazy rule, which I'm sure they didn't want to happen, but yikes. It's so crazy to me. It's insane.
I will just take this opportunity to make a public service announcement. Wear your masks, people. This is why you need to wear your masks.
Yes, please.
I know inside the Disney bubble and inside the Universal bubble, people are really good about it because they are wearing. There are people who are literally policing this in Disney Springs and in Universal. But on a daily basis, wear your masks, people.
My favorite meme was, hey, we just found a solution to cure COVID for 70% of people. It requires a piece of fabric over your mouth. Please do it. So I thought that was very funny. I know there's a lot of different theories and whatnot out there, but yeah, I friggin' hate the mask and almost didn't say friggin'. But if I can help the world get Disney open faster, if I can make sure the weird guy to my right and the normal person to my left are fine, I'll wear a mask. I do it. I do it. And you guys know me. Guys, we're a family. You know Pete Carney. I do it. Please wear a mask. Okay, let's move on.
The more you know.
I was telling this story on Pressing Issues. We went down for Universal, and it was great being in that bubble. And when we were at Boardwalk, great being in that bubble, and everybody followed the rules. And I really thought that was going to be the case from the beginning, that we all want to be back in the parks, and so we're all going to follow the rules when we're in the parks. But what didn't occur to me was that outside the parks, people still weren't doing that. And we stopped at a restaurant in Jacksonville on the way up. Like driving back home, and we walked in, we had our masks on, and 10 people behind the counter, none of them had masks. I don't even think gloves. And then all of the people who were customers in there weren't wearing masks. And we were so comfortable having been in that Disney bubble for 4 or 5 days that it was just unsettling. I mean, how weird is it when you're walking into an establishment wearing a mask and you're the weirdo?
I know.
And so kind of looked around and just went, we can't do this. And we walked out. And then if you look at the heat map of where all these things are happening in Florida, the dark red ones are the places. And boy, if Jacksonville is lit up dark red on that map. So, I mean, so is Orange County. But it's just, I don't get why people don't take that one simple thing and wear a mask. And you don't have to wear it 24/7, 365. There are times when you can take it off. But if you are walking around in public, you should be wearing a mask. It is not a big ask. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I take my mask off all the time when I don't see anyone around me in 50 feet in any direction. Because the mask is hot as be. It is 98 degrees here in Orlando. I'm just saying, when you see a person do the right thing, it's just crazy not to do that. It is like, it doesn't matter what you believe. It just is crazy not to do it.
And you can be stylish while you do it, because Rob has designed some really nice looking masks for WWNT on TeePublic. Some that minimalist Allison, would buy just because they are that cute.
Did you buy some?
Allison never really buys anything.
Oh, that's because she also never leaving the house again.
Unless she can put it in her mouth and it's delicious at a nice restaurant, she doesn't buy it. It's pretty crazy.
You guys know me. You get me.
I know. We love Allison.
That's why I love this staff. I can go to dinner with Allison. I can go shopping with Rob. I can go to Jelly Rolls with Pete. It's perfect.
And I'll stay home and coordinate.
Someone's got to keep tabs. All right, should we do the last story? I love that we're all going to be late for our own staff meeting.
Yeah, I know. Right? So we got one more thing to talk about. We're going to try and make a little bit of haste.
Let's make this last 10 minutes. Let's go.
Oh, good.
Let's do it.
So, Cirque du Soleil filed for bankruptcy earlier this week as a result of the pandemic. They just haven't been able to have shows, and as a result of that, they aren't generating money, and it's an unfortunate consequence that just kind of makes sense, unfortunately. But there is a little bit of good news that tickets for Drawn to Life at Disney Springs are now on sale, and the first performance is still scheduled for November 5th. This was announced after the bankruptcy announcement. So it's not... Huh? Dude, I think we might need a little legal perspective here. How can you go bankrupt and still have shows?
Well, I don't know how it works in Canada, but yeah, that happens all the time in the U.S. under Chapter 11, right? Yep. Like, I remember, Bally's Total Fitness went into Chapter 11 in 98 or something like that. It continued to operate for 20 years while.
Wait, Allison, can I just give you a real life example, just to cut in, and then you can do your thing?
Yeah, please.
Hertz Rent-A-Car during this coronavirus went into Chapter 11. yet their stock went up like 50%, which is freaking crazy. If anyone, so I got this story from NPR's Planet Money, which I listen to all the time. It's a great podcast. I love economics, but like literally, like it was tanking. Like Hertz Rent-A-Car went down to like 80 cents or something crazy low, and then literally filed for bankruptcy, but went up like 600% because they said they were going to sell all their cars, which are, you know, obviously an asset, but yet they still owe something like $7 billion. It's insane. Like the numbers are insane. Global wealth is insane. So with Cirque du Soleil filing for bankruptcy doesn't mean anything. Bankruptcy, literally, you should know, means almost nothing nowadays.
We rented a car from Hertz when we were down there 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
That's where Jason and I rented a car from.
In the middle of a bankrupt battle, which can be publicly seen via Zoom meeting in a Maryland courtroom, where literally the attorney for a $1 billion corporation is making jokes during the Zoom meeting. Anyway, just going back to Cirque du Soleil, I'm going to say that bankruptcy means nothing, and I want to know what Alex has to say about all this, because bankruptcy is crazy. But I always knew Drawn to Life was going to happen, which is weird because they filed for bankruptcy, and maybe you can just tell people why we know we're going to see Drawn to Life even though they filed for bankruptcy. That, I think, is the bigger story.
Yeah,
Sure.
I don't know. Bankruptcy is so outside of my wheelhouse, and I should have consulted with a friend of mine who's like one of those like bankruptcy attorneys for like $1 billion companies. I should ask and like have an update next week. But I'm sure it has to do with like how much money that they've already invested, and then you'd end up like losing more money by just throwing in the towel. So yeah, I mean, like I would love to see that show actually get off the ground, and maybe it'll give them some money that they can throw at other debts that they have in the bankruptcy proceedings. That's my guess, but yeah, not my area of law.
You know,
it's definitely going to happen. For anyone who doesn't know, it's 100% happening. They already told their people to like stand by. So like bankruptcy, like they're just I don't know.
Okay.
So in
Rob,
2018, my company, iHeartMedia, actually filed for Chapter 11, and so many people were like, "Oh my gosh, what are you going to do now?" And you know, they kind of explained everything to us, that this was about basically putting a freeze on everything so they could, you know, take a new strategy to, you know, like redistribute the debt. And so it wasn't a, hey, this is going out of business. It's just a kind of a pause. In some cases, and it could be anything across the board, but Chapter 11 doesn't always mean that you are going out of business. And I also think that Disney has put so much money into this particular show, you know, in working with animators and Imagineers to help make this one happen. I can't imagine that they wouldn't try to at least carry this one by itself, even if the ones in Vegas and around the world went out. That they, you know, they've done all this work. Like Pete said, it's going to open. It was weeks away from opening. Before all this happened. So I think that even if for some reason Cirque du Soleil is no more, this show in some form will go on. It's just a guess.
Keep in mind too that a big part of Chapter 11 is, and the reason they file is the stay. And what that basically means is that if they have all these debts, they basically don't have to pay them for a certain amount of time. So they basically get a get out of jail free card for a whatever that allowed time is, but typically it takes many years to go through this entire filing. So let's say they owe $1 billion. It's not that they're not going to pay that. It's just that when they file for Chapter 11, is that they have everything freezes, and they don't have to pay those debtors during this proceeding. So it's a very big advantage for a corporation. So it's not that Cirque du Soleil is gone forever. It's they can't afford to pay their debtors at this time. And I think that's the best way to explain it. Am I wrong, Allison? I don't know.
I think that's more or less correct, and we can get a more detailed thing on the post show next week.
Yeah,
there is none this week.
That is going to do it for this week, though. We ran a little over. There is no post show this week, like we mentioned. There's a staff meeting that is going on right now, so we're gonna make a little bit of haste in getting over to that. One thing I do want to plug before we go, coming up on July 18th at 9 p.m. is the return of WDWNT, the RPG. They're doing the Jungle Cruise Catastrophe. This is our second trip to the Jungle Cruise, so if you're a fan of that, or a fan of D&D, or just listening to people act out fun stories, honestly, is what this is. It's a lot of improv and a lot of fun to watch and listen to, so I highly recommend you check that out. That is going to do it for this week, folks. We will see you all next week.
See la go!
I don't know.